It has been a week of unprecedented drama in the halls of Parliament as the ad hoc committee investigating the explosive allegations made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi reached fever pitch. What began as a whistleblower's cry for help has turned into a scorched earth revelation of criminal infiltration, political puppetry, and a justice system under siege. The high-stakes drama surrounding the ad hoc committee investigating criminal infiltration within the SAPS reached a critical point as Parliament took the unprecedented step of resolving to subpoena forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan. While the battle over O'Sullivan's appearance rages, the committee's floor has already been rocked by devastating new testimonies that suggest the rot goes even deeper than previously feared. This week, we heard from whistleblowers who detailed a systemic campaign of intimidation and the calculated hits that they say were used to neutralize anyone standing in the way of the so-called Big Five syndicate. From the shocking admissions of crime intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo to electric confrontations led by Action SA's Darylyn James, the testimony has laid bare a justice system that is under siege. So let's pick up that conversation then with Professor Nirmala Gopal to unpack all of what we've seen in the last few days at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Good afternoon to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. I think I want to start with what we heard from Diani Hlungwani, just about this Secret Services account, which has now come to be known as a slush fund, because that was part of the work that was being done in Parliament, looking into the weaknesses in the system, also at the same time hearing from civil society actors and other individuals in the ad hoc committee. Just your overall thoughts about, for starters, the slush fund, slush fund in inverted commas. It's established to serve a legitimate purpose, but for the longest of time, we've just been talking about the difficulties of it all. What do you make of it?
So good afternoon to Lasizwe, and good afternoon to your viewers. Yeah, I think it's a very controversial space, and as we've heard and seen over the last couple of weeks, really, how the slush fund is used in ways that they were probably not mandated to be used. And I think in as much as we admire and we're excited about the fact that all of the infiltration, criminal activities, etc., has come to fore, I think the reality is that we're also beginning to realize and understand that the slush fund, so-called slush fund, has been used in ways that they were not mandated to be used, and actually in some instances have been used to enrich individuals. So I think that's a huge problem for us, and I think citizens of the country are legitimately justified in questioning the use of the slush fund.
Do you believe we'll ever get it right, though, Prof? Because, I mean, in terms of processes that have happened to try and get a hold of this thing, we've had so many processes. We had the Africa report and that process that took place. We had work that was done by Sydney Mufamadi. We've had the Zondo Commission of Inquiry touched on the weaknesses within crime intelligence, including the administration of the Secret Service account. Now it's before the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee. It just seems as if it's one of those instances where we are all in consensus that this thing is a problem, but how exactly to resolve it, we are none the wiser.
So this is where I think, it is very complex, as I mentioned, and I think you rightfully have identified as well. But I think like any complex system, it needs an approach that's disaggregated, but very systematic and organized at the same time. I think what's going to become very important for us going forward is to make sure that the individuals who are employed in those spaces that overlook and are mandated or, with the approval of releasing monies for legitimate activities is going to be extremely important, especially in terms of ethical and professional behavior, but also being true to what the country expects of us. So the individuals that are going to be responsible for that slush fund will have to come with the highest levels of integrity. But I think it's going to be important to have a short, medium, and long-term plan for how for us to reintegrate the slush fund into a space and in terms of how it should actually be used and to repurpose it for the real purpose that it's actually been mandated for.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's impossible. Definitely a very challenging process, though.
Yeah. Let's get back then to the more core focus on the work of the ad hoc committee, and just against the backdrop of people such as Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo and General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi having testified and detailing criminal infiltration, the existence of what they call Big Five cartel, that has infiltrated pockets of the SAPS. What is the political cost of these revelations? And in your view, does the ad hoc committee representing Parliament have the wherewithal to unravel these? And in fact, in the work that they've done, how far along that path have they gone?
So I think we have pockets of excellence in terms of the ad hoc committee. You have those who have more, who have stronger competencies in terms of this particular portfolio as compared to others. And I think there are some parties that have a more invested or vested interest in what the outcomes of the committee will actually be. So I think in terms of the political landscape, what we are going to see is some parties jockeying for greater votes, etc., at the expense of other parties. And we know at this point in time, our biggest party at the moment is not at the best favor in as far as the public is concerned. So I think that's where we're going to probably start seeing a political shift in as far as the electorate and the voting is concerned. But I think in addition to that, the infiltration by certain political parties is going to cast doubt again in the minds of the electorate. So I think we're really going to see some huge shifts in as far as the political space is concerned.
And how useful has this ad hoc committee been as perhaps a direct accountability mechanism by representatives of the people when they have these senior leaders in the SAPS sitting there across from them? There's been instances, for example, where Action SA's Darrellin James has had multiple confrontations with some of the officials that have come through, including the National Police Commissioner. Has that been perhaps the secondary and perhaps unintended consequence of, they set out to investigate specific allegations, but now that you have these officials sitting there, actually you have the opportunity and 30 minutes or thereabout, whatever the time is allocated, to actually confront them and exact accountability?
Yeah, so Chilas, these were a very interesting question because I think we're seeing a lot of theatre as well in the ad hoc committee. And I think, yes, whilst we might have a terms of reference, there seems to be unnecessary at times confrontation. And that also, I think, is playing to the gallery, and it probably has an ulterior motive in terms of political parties wanting to showcase themselves and their own competencies and what they are able to do for the country. Of course, we know that crime is one of the low-hanging fruit, but high impact in as far as how the electorate feels about where our country is going to. So I think that's what's happening. But in terms of accountability, I'm not sure that the ad hoc committee will be able to hold those who are involved in this space, will be able to hold them to account in as much as the recommendations from the Nhlanhla Commission. So I think if we had to compare those two institutions, if I might use that word, if we had to compare the legitimacy of those two institutions and the clout that they would have, I think the Nhlanhla Commission would be able to make far greater changes and hold people more accountable in as far as the the criminal conduct is concerned.
All right, let's leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining us and giving us those insights there. Criminologist at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Professor Nirmala Gopal, weighing in on the ad hoc committee that has been taking place in the last few days, well, the hearings that have been taking place in the last few days.